Hi, I'm Vicki from MeTime, and today I'm going to show you how to create Noel's cookie gift from the Hoop Studio subscription. If you're new to MeTime, we deliver a complete embroidery experience right to your door. If you want to know more about MeTime, you can access the link metimedelivered.com. So, about Noel's cookie gift, it was such a fun project to design. From the fabrics we chose to the techniques, where we're going to teach you how to work with lace and create amazing little patterns. We wanted to focus on something that was quick to stitch and also giftable so that you can give it to neighbors or close friends. So let's take a look and see how we can stitch these for our upcoming projects. Speaking of beautiful fabrics, check out this month's kit contents. You will receive fabrics from Art Gallery and Dear Stella, felt, shapeform interfacing, and instructions. A few unique things that I love about this kit are these adorable scallop ribbons, rose gold fluted cookie cutter, and look at these polka dot bags. They are so perfect to put cookies in. We made sure to provide food-safe bags. They aren't for long-term storage though, but I'm sure that won't be a problem because cookies always disappear so quickly. Because these come together so quickly, I'm going to show you how to make the cookie holder and pine tree 2 to focus on the fresh technique. So let's start with the cookie holder. Part 1 of the cookie holder is stitching everything out. Part 2 will be sewing it together, and I'm using the 8x12 hoop instructions. If you prefer to use a 5x7 hoop, there are instructions to do this and 3 hoopings in your PDF resources. I have already completed the steps 1 to 4 for this project, so I have my placement line already stitched on my stabilizer, and I added fusible backing on my fabrics as well. Step 5 is placing the shapeform interfacing covering the placement line. Then tape it to hold it in place. Now stitch the base tack down line and scoring guides in a visible thread color. These guides are important for step 8. Make sure you can see the stitches. For step 7, trim as close as you can to the stitch line without cutting your stitches. Next, I will show you how to score the shapeform. For this, we will use a seam ripper. Please make sure that it is sharp. First, use the seam ripper to unpick the tack down stitches that are right at the end of the scoring guides. This is similar to what we did for the beautiful neighborhood houses. Next, turn the seam ripper ball tip facing down and cut through the shapeform directly between the scoring guides. There are 4 spots you will need to score. Avoid cutting through the stabilizer. However, just as I showed you for the house, if you cut through your stabilizer, don't panic. You can reinforce with tape and later before you finish the project, you remove the tape. Something that I have found useful when scoring shapeform, because it can be a little bit tricky or challenging, is to first start with the pointy part of my sharp seam ripper and just make sure that it is in between the shapeform and the stabilizer. A good way of checking this is by turning your hoop and taking a look at the back. If your seam ripper shows through the stabilizer, that means that you're cutting it. But if it shows right behind it, then that means that you're good. Once you have established that you are in the correct spot, then you can turn it with the bowl point to the bottom and just start cutting. Moving on to step 9, go ahead and stitch the placement line for the inside and outside in a neutral thread color. Place the outside fabric right side up, covering the placement line. Then add some fabric tape. Flip the hoop over to the back and place the inside fabric right side up, covering the placement line. Tape the corners and sides to hold it in place. Alright, now stitch the tack down line. This is machine step 4, instruction step 12. For step 13, after you remove the tape, trim the fabric close to the stitch line. Turn the hoop over to the back and remove the tape on the back. Then trim the inside fabric close to the stitch line. Now change both your thread and bobbin to the color you want for your quilting. I am using this cream color. For machine step 6, instruction step 16, stitch the bottom fold lines. It's time to stitch the satin outline. This is machine step 7. You can leave your thread and bobbin the same cream color, or if you want your satin stitches to be in a different color than the quilting, change your thread and bobbin to that color. Just make sure whatever color you choose is the same for both the top thread and the bobbin thread. When you're done with the satin stitch, remember to switch your bobbin back to a neutral color. Then remove the project from the hoop and trim off any extra stabilizer from around the design. Carefully remove the remaining stabilizer with a wet cotton swab. Try not to get your fabric wet. Just run the cotton swab along the stitches to remove the excess stabilizer, and this completes part 1. Cookie holder part 2. For part 2 of the cookie holder, lay the project with the outside fabric facing up and the back section at the top like this. Fold the project, aligning the long edge of one of the sides to the adjacent edge of the back. Match your sewing machine's bobbin and top thread to the color you use for your satin stitches. Using a zigzag stitch, sew along the edge. Notice the diagram in your instructions show how one side of the zigzag will go through your project and the other side will go off the edge. The zigzag size we recommend is 1.4 millimeters long by 3.5 millimeters wide. Now for step 4, do the same thing on the other side of the project. Sew the front pieces together the same way. I love how this is coming together. How do you like the dimensional projects we've done over the last few months? Please let us know. The last step of the cookie holder is to turn it right side out. Now it's all ready, so you just need a gift to go inside. Tree 1. I'm going to move on to tree 2. But first, I want to mention that tree 1 is a great way to use your scraps. You can use one scrap for the top section and one scrap for the bottom section. Just make sure you cover the placement lines. If you have a bigger piece, you can just add one piece on the placement line that will cover both parts. Okay, I'm ready for the next project, tree 2. I have already completed steps 1 to 3, so I have my placement line stitched. Place the felt covering the placement line and add paper tape to keep it in place. For machine step 2, instruction step 5, now you have to stitch the base tack down line, which will also be your trimming line. Normally, this is where we would trim our fabric, but for this tree, wait to trim until the end on step 11. Instruction step 6 is to stitch the cut line. Using a seam ripper, poke a hole inside the cut line just through the felt. Don't cut through the stabilizer. Then, insert the end of the snips between the felt and stabilizer. Carefully trim the felt inside the cut line as close as you can without cutting the stitches. This leads into this month's fresh technique, which is creating lace on an embroidery machine. The embroidery on this tree was specifically designed to create lace. However, not every design works for lace making. For this project, we're incorporating embroidery felt to enhance the design and provide added stability. This center lace section is ideal for threading ribbon to tie around a gift. Before you stitch any lace design, we suggest slowing down your machine. Okay, let's return to the instructions. I am on instruction step 8. After you slow your machine down, change your bobbin thread to match the top thread. We're using the icy blue color to match the felt. Stitch the cut work, lace, and satin outline. This is machine step 4. After all that stitching is done, change your bobbin to match your top thread. We're using a cream color, but if you're feeling creative, you can choose a different color. Stitch the outline detail that goes on top of the satin. If you want to keep your thread color the same color as the satin, you can also do that as well. Change the bobbin back to a neutral color. Take the project out of the hoop and trim off some of the stabilizer. Then place the project in cool water to dissolve the rest of the stabilizer and lay it flat to dry. Once your project is dry, trim the felt exactly on top of the trimming line. Unpick any extra stitches. Now the tree is complete and it's ready to add to a gift. These projects were so much fun to make. I can't wait to make more for Christmas for my friends. Please share with our Facebook community all of your projects and the little cookie gifts that you're making. And maybe you can also share an extra recipe, a cookie recipe with us, so that we can all talk about it in the community. Thank you so much for everything. And now go and enjoy some well-deserved me time.